Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. It's time for our cash tag segment. For that, let's bring in our next guest. That's going to be Andy Swan. He's a co-founder at Likefolio. Welcome back to the show, Andy.
Thank you.
All right, so we're talking Constellation Brands. Andy, it seems like every time we talk about this stock with you guys, they're led by their beer segment. That's their biggest revenue generator there. Maybe sales in wine, in some of their wine and some of their spirits business isn't in focus. Are you guys still seeing the data that's kind of supporting the gains that we've seen in the stock so far this year?
Yeah, it's really all about the beer for Constellation Brands. That's been our thesis at Likefolio for a little while. We're bullish on this name and up a little bit on it so far. We expect that to continue because, they have the top beer brand now, Modelo, and its growth rate continues to accelerate. The amount of consumer demand that we're seeing at Likefolio for Modelo continues to expand. What's really driving this is twofold. The Hispanic population, especially in the United States, is growing, but also, when Bud Light fumbled the ball, Modelo and Coors were there to pick it up, and they both did a great job of picking it up and running with it. And those beer drinkers are not going back to Bud Light. They are sticking with Modelo. They like the taste. They like the easy drinkability. It's a good beer. And overall, I think Constellation has proven time and time again from an execution standpoint that their enormous and broad portfolio of brands, of types of alcohol products, whether it's beer, wine, vodka, all kinds of spirits. They have this portfolio that whenever consumer tastes shift, they can very nimbly react and lean into whatever is most popular at the time, because they have such a broad portfolio and they're all pretty high quality products. And so they're in a very good spot to adjust to shifting trends, to shifting consumer preferences. They've done a fantastic job of that, and the proof is right there in the expansion, the takeover the number one spot, and the continued acceleration in consumer adoption of their Modelo brand.
Yeah, the data from Constellation Brands says that the beer segment is strong performance, headwinds in wine and spirits. But when you look at net sales, Andy, and your data shows how strong Modelo is, how strong Pacifico is. A little bit of concerning if it's Corona Extra as showing some negative numbers there. But how about these numbers, Andy? 79% of their net sales are from beer. 18.2 is wine, 2.8 spirits. Now, is that industry-wide, or do they not have the products to really make a dent in spirits?
Yeah, I think spirits is definitely the weakest part of their product line. I think they've, done a good job of adapting to consumer preferences, and beer is where that, is really headed. I don't think that they're going to become, a dominant spirits player anytime soon. You've got such niche brands out there. People, when they're buying spirits, they really like to buy a little bit more independent feeling brands, not exactly Constellation's, wheelhouse. So I think that's the weakest part of their portfolio. They're doing pretty well on the higher end wine brands that they have. This is another company where we're starting to see, like we've talked about with you guys many times on this show, the high-end consumer, the high-income consumer is doing just fine. And so the high-end brands are doing well. You can throw Modelo in there in terms of light beers. And so, Constellation's in a really good spot to continue winning because they've got the right client base, they've got the right product, and they've got the distribution that allows them to lean on those retailers in a really big way to make sure that their product is front and center with whatever the consumer taste shift is.
Yeah, Andy, I was looking at the consumer happiness stuff. Constellation Brands and Modelo's become the biggest seller now. I mean, 3 years ago, I would have never bought Modelo at a liquor store. Now it's like we entertain a lot. That's like the first thing I pick up now at the liquor store.
I used to personally, My favorite of the three was Pacifica.
Yeah.
But now Modelo is
it's
incredibly popular.
it seems like it's become the new Budweiser that was 20 years ago.
Yes.
But Andy, we know how fickle the consumer is. Do you guys have data that kind of shows, like, are these like 2 or 3 year cycles, or how long are the cycles that, you know, people change taste or maybe move to another brand that's got a good commercial out and everybody's drinking it?
Yeah, you know, with beer, I think the consumer is pretty sticky. You know, it takes a really momentous screw up like Bud Light pulled off in order to turn people off of their favorite beer and get them shopping for something else. And so when that occurred, you know, Constellation brands via Modelo and Coors Light and Coors in general were ready to step up and fill the void. And I think they did a fantastic job of that. And so, you know, I think that this cycle continues for a very long time. I don't see anything indicating that the growth of the Hispanic population is going to slow down anytime soon. I don't see any indication that people are tiring of the taste of Modelo. And so overall, I think they've got a winner on their hands, and it's probably a decade at least type of winner.
Yeah, Andy, this sucks off all-time highs that we saw in August of last year. When you guys have an earnings score on something like this, a pullback of 2.7% is probably not bad if you're bullish, right?
No, not bad at all. I think this is one of those companies you can put on your watch list, and anytime it's 5 to 10% off of highs, it's time to pick up some shares. I think for the next decade, you'll be well rewarded.
All right, great stuff. Great data. As always, Andy, appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's Andy Swan, co-founder of Likefolio, breaking down the data for us on Constellation Brands. Kev, they're supposed to grow revenue. The consensus mark is about 5.3%.